Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another Hannibal reaction video. So we're about to start episode 2 of season 3 and I'm really excited for this one. As you guys know, if you watched my episode 1 season 3 reaction, I'm really kind of into the direction that it's going so far this season. I think that it's taking the kind of foundation, the groundwork that they laid in the previous seasons in new and interesting ways now that Hannibal is kind of just blatantly out there as who he is. Like he said, taking off his person suit, taking off that mask that he showed to the world. But one thing about the first episode is that it was so like Hannibal centric, with really just Bedelia and, interestingly enough, Gideon, who's not actually with us any longer, being kind of the secondary characters. So what that meant is that the fates of all the other main characters, who were all kind of left as carnage in the wake of Hannibal's blowing out of town at the end of season 2, was just really left up in the air. So, you know, as I said, I'm certain, obviously Will is still alive, and I think it's pretty clear that Abigail is dead, based on, you know, how brutally her throat was slit there and how she was bleeding out everywhere. I think that Jack is probably still alive, just because that, I know they've made some changes from the books, but that would be just such a major, huge departure to have him to have died there. So then Alana is kind of the one that I'm mostly up in the air about. But regardless of who's alive and who's dead, we still don't know what they've been doing in the aftermath of all of this happening. So I'm assuming that episode 2 is going to get us into that. And then, of course, continue where we left off with episode 1, with Hannibal and Bedelia in Italy, and Hannibal has now left this kind of grotesque statue-type figure of a body, very reminiscent of his Chesapeake Ripper behavior of putting out these very flamboyantly displayed carcasses. Kind of gonna give away some of his hiding, it seems. So yeah, I'm just really excited to continue and see where we go from here. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get into episode 2, season 3 of Hannibal. Here we go.
There's someone here very anxious to see you.
They said it was surgical. He wanted us to live.
I'm not buying it.
He left us to die.
But we didn't.
I believe it about Will.
He was supposed to take me with him.
I believe that he
was supposed to leave together.
cut Will in a way that would allow him to live.
Abigail.
Why did you lie to him?
The wrong thing being the right thing to do was too ugly a thought.
He gave you a chance to take it all back, and you just kept lying. No one had to die.
Here's Will, clearly having a difficult time coming out of his, likely comatose state.
When we have gone from this life, I would always have this place.
In your memory palace?
My palace is vast, even by medieval standards. The foyer is the Norman chapel in Palermo. Seville, and beautiful and timeless, with a single reminder of mortality. A skull, graven in the floor.
Memento mori. So, is this going to be giving Will, like, hints? So when he wakes up, he has hints in his head of, where Hannibal might go? And of course, that's probably what Hannibal wants, right? You know, that's what Abigail in the dream is saying he wants us to follow. Which is why he'd be putting that body out there in the first place, on display.
What I believe is closer to science fiction than anything in the Bible.
We all know it, but nobody ever says that G-D won't do a G-D damn thing to answer anybody's prayers.
God can't save any of us because it's inelegant. Elegance is more important than suffering. That's his
Are
design.
you sure that's God? That sounds like Hannibal.
You talking about God or Hannibal?
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Hannibal's not God.
Thank you, hallucination of Abigail, which means Will's subconscious mind knows.
God. Defying God. That's his idea of a good time.
Murdered that man and left him in the Capella Palatina.
Don't you know?
I met him 20 years ago. Il Mostro. The monster of Florence. It was his custom to arrange his victims like a beautiful painting. Il Mostro created images that stayed in my mind.
Just another
20 years ago,
serial killer persona for Hannibal when he
I was
was
dwelling
young.
on a couple of pounds slain in the bed of a pickup truck in Impruneta. Bodies placed, garlanded with flowers.
Like a Botticelli.
Exactly like a Botticelli. Success comes as a result of inspiration. Revelation is the development of an image. First blurred, then coming clear. To find the inspiration Il Mostro used was a triumph. I went to the Uffizi and stood before the original Primavera day after day, and most days I'd see a young Lithuanian man as transfixed by the Botticelli as I was. As transfixed as I imagined Il Mostro would be. And every day I saw him, he would recreate the Primavera in pencil, just as he did in flesh. I knew it was the best moment of my life, a moment of epiphany that made me famous and then ruined me.
Sounds
In haste
familiar.
and heat of ambition, the Questura nearly destroyed the young man's home, trying to find evidence.
He doesn't leave evidence.
No, he doesn't.
He eats it.
Another man, not an innocent man, but innocent of those crimes, was a dream suspect. He was convicted on no evidence, except his character.
Flame has a habit of not sticking to Hannibal Lecter.
Hannibal has a habit of setting up good patsies.
It has a habit of sticking to you.
Oh my god. Well.
Well,
and so now his hallucination wakes him up from his other hallucination.
I do feel closer to Hannibal here.
Someone save Will from himself. From his own head.
God only knows where I'd be without him.
Much better. Much better off. You'd be much better off, Will.
He left us his broken heart. The place wasn't made for you, Abigail.
Exactly.
In this world. It's the only place I could make for you.
Okay, so at least he's aware. Yeah. Alright, so Will he's not totally hallucinating. He's aware that Abigail is dead. But he's, thinking about her, talking to her. He's made a place for her in his own mind. Takes her with him. Yes. Follow Hannibal down into a fucking crypt? Yeah, this seems like smart.
Hannibal.
I forgive you.
That's probably what he wanted to hear, I guess. But I fucking hope that's a lie, Will. Okay. Well, that was episode 2. Another kind of interesting way of showing what's happening this season. So it seems like so far, all right, we had a Hannibal episode and then we have a Will episode. So we still haven't gotten any information about exactly what happened to Jack and Alana in the aftermath of that. Confirmed Abigail dead, yes, but so I'm curious, maybe next episode will show what's going on with them, if Alana is still alive, and what's going on with Jack, how he got out of that situation, where he is now. Yeah, so they're definitely, like, building up to this season very, very slowly and methodically, characters one by one added back in, which is an interesting way of doing it, but good. So obviously you guys heard me throughout the course of the episode. I did not believe at any point in time that actually was Abigail and that she had survived. I'm curious if anybody else out there did think that she was actually alive and that she was actually there with Will. It just to me, the way we saw her have her throat slit, the amount of blood, it was pretty obvious that someone wouldn't survive that, and I don't know, in addition to that, it just kind of seems to me like having her live would have defeated the entire point of Hannibal, pretending she was dead in the first place and then bringing her back and then doing that in front of Will. That was done for a specific purpose. The whole idea of shattering the teacup, the whole idea of giving her back to Will, but then taking her away, in the most brutal and horrific manner possible in front of him, when Will had let him down in his mind. So, Will breaks his heart, so Hannibal breaks Will's heart. And if he was to just let her live, that would erase the entire purpose of the whole thing altogether, seems to me. So I did not believe there was any chance that she was alive in any way, shape, or form. But I'm kind of not sure if they were trying, really, really trying to make you think she was. I mean, maybe it was, and they were kind of hoping some people might not realize. But it seems like the overall purpose of that, which I do think worked well, was to give us a better sense of, you know, what is going on in Will's mind and how he's trying to process everything and, I guess, wrestle with himself and what it is he wants, or actually, like, he doesn't know for sure what he wants going forward. So I thought it was interesting that they decided to show that whole scene again at the beginning, even though it was quite a long scene. But they did it with the different music, and it certainly had a different kind of feel to it with knowing exactly what was coming, what was going to happen to Abigail. And I don't know, it just had more of kind of like a... When I watched it the first time, I was just enraptured. I was enraptured almost, and I was like in tears because it was so heartbreaking. This time it had like an anger behind it almost. It wasn't just kind of like this sad, heartbreaking moment. It was, you kind of felt that, I don't know if it's just the music, the way they did it, but it definitely had a different tone to it, for me. And so then they're able to utilize that, again, as I said, to put Will's conflicted feelings into effect. And the refreshing of that scene also kind of highlighted again that even back then, you know, Will kind of did want to go with Hannibal. And even when he decided, no, I'm going to stay with who I am and do the kind of, I guess, right thing, and not run away with him, he still called him and gave him a heads up where he could have fled. Like, he still did give Hannibal a chance to escape. But Hannibal didn't want to escape on his own, so he didn't go for that. He didn't. He stayed for the confrontation, and he stayed to hurt Will, to punish Will for not choosing to go with him. But again, that showed that at that time, Will was conflicted, and we see now through his conversations with Abigail, and then what happened at the end there, that he still remains conflicted. You know, he said to Abigail, even after all this, you still kind of want to go with him, and she says yes, but of course she is just a reflection of his own internal feelings and thoughts. And then at the end, he tells Hannibal, I forgive you. And it's hard for me to process because, again, I do understand they have this connection between them. They feed off of each other in ways that they haven't experienced necessarily with others. But he also had an extremely strong familial type connection with Abigail, and Hannibal just slaughtered her just as a way to punish him. I can't believe ultimately that he would totally forgive him for that. I mean, I have to feel like in the back of his mind, at least, that's always going to be there as, oh, but hey, you killed Abigail. And that's even putting aside, you know, what if he killed Alana too? I don't know. But yeah, but Will's saying, you know, he's curious, he doesn't know exactly what he's going to do when he finds Hannibal, but he feels like he has to find Hannibal. That's the one thing. He feels like he has to. So it's, I guess, comes down to a question of, do I find Hannibal and then I ultimately, like, completely give in to this side and become what he wants me to become and go with him and give up on all of the rest of who I am and what I've believed? Do I want to arrest him and put him away forever, which is what I was hesitant to do before? Do I want to kill him? Should I kill him? I mean, personally, I think that would be the only obvious, smart, logical choice, but that's not, I mean, Will's clearly much more conflicted here. I have to believe that's going to be what Jack would want, but we'll see. We'll see when we get Jack back into the picture here going forward. But yeah, and then again, you're also left kind of wondering with Hannibal, what exactly does he want? And maybe he also isn't totally certain what he wants, except that he doesn't want it to be over. He wants it to continue in some shape, in some fashion, the dance between them, whether it's eventually going to lead to one of them killing the other, or it's going to lead to them going off together. He did And this again goes back to the hallucination of Abigail. He must have, because he's Hannibal, he knows how to kill people, right? He must have intentionally cut Will in such a way that would seriously harm him but not kill him, leaving Will alive. And then he's leaving messages for him. He wants this encounter to happen again. So, but then of course they're both there down in the crypts, and I guess neither one of them is really ready for it to happen yet, because at least Hannibal, because he could have just easily jumped out at Will at any point in time, but he chose not to do so. He heard Will say, "I forgive you," and then he moved on. And you have to wonder, maybe Hannibal didn't know what he was gonna do going into there. Again, like Will said, Will's curious about what he'll do. Maybe Hannibal's also curious about what he himself will do. But then Will said, "I forgive you." Maybe that is gonna lead Hannibal to be like, all right, I just gotta get away for now, and then we'll see what happens later. But yeah. The Abigail stuff, you know, I kind of like the idea of her as Will's mental companion to try to work through the things he's dealing with. She's, besides the fact that she was so important to him, she's a good choice, and that she also was maybe the only one who could totally, well, other than maybe Bedelia, totally understand about living under Hannibal's kind of mind manipulations for so long, and the pull of that. But then I have that scene where they were contrasting Will being treated and then Abigail basically, you know, them going through her body and embalming her. That was pretty rough to watch. That one was difficult, I have to say. Yeah. So then, all right, quickly, the other things in this episode, we've got Potsie has now arrived on the scene, and again, for anybody who had read the books, you know, in the books he meets a very unpleasant end, so interested to see if they're going to go down that route here. It feels like they certainly are setting it up to be that way, what with his conversations with Will. And he's trying to compare himself to Will in terms of the relationship with Hannibal and the quest for him. But I think that even that idea is gonna be partially contributing to his downfall, because if anything, maybe he could compare himself to Jack and Jack's kind of quest for the Chesapeake Ripper, and the way, of course, that Hannibal dealt with Jack in that was, you know, kidnapping and mutilating his trainee and holding her for years and torturing Jack psychologically about that, and fucking up things mentally with his wife, and going after Will originally as a ploy after Jack just to torture him, and then ultimately tried to kill him. So if that's any indication of what's coming in the future for Potsie, even leaving aside what we know from the books, it's not going to be pretty. So Will's trying to give him a heads up, you know, saying, if you can let this go, just let it go. And Will knows better than anyone. But yeah, I think it's pretty clear that that's not going to happen, so not good things in his future, I'm imagining. And then finally, just one last thing I wanted to touch upon was just, you know, I was commenting about the catacombs, the crypts area, with all the bodies still there on display, and how kind of interesting it is that those places are still around in certain parts of the world. But then I was really thinking about, you know, this particular church was somewhere that Hannibal talked to Will about as being integral to his, like, mind palace, kind of the beauty of it, the majesty, but, like, with the touch of memento mori there on the floor. And then beneath the surface, you have these grisly catacombs laid out. And I was just thinking about how, like, kind of perfect that is as a setting, like, to represent Hannibal himself, right? Because kind of the glory, ornamentalism, the beauty of what you'd see inside the cathedral and what you'd expect is kind of like Hannibal on the outside. And then, of course, there's his other side, and that is just waiting beneath the surface, and it is just pure death, but still in kind of like a beautiful way, but clearly, I mean, death all the same. So I just thought that as kind of a symbol of Hannibal, that is just perfect. So I really loved looking at that. So, all right, anyway. That's going to do it for me today, guys. Again, super curious. Next time, we've got to see what's going to happen with Will's and poor, unfortunate Potsie's continued pursuit of Hannibal, but also, you know, what the heck is up with Jack and Alana. Hopefully, we'll find out more information about that, too. So, all right, I'm going to say thank you very much for joining me today, and hopefully I will see you all next time. Bye.